Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Ethan.
And I'm Rick.
And this is Roster United, a board game podcast coming to you with another GenCon preview.
GenCon, baby!
GenCon is coming, the largest North American gaming convention, board gaming convention here, coming.
Gaming. Other than video games, I guess. But
exactly.
RPGs, you name it. If it's not played on a screen, it's gonna be there.
It's gonna be there, and in one of our hometown, right? Close to it, right? In our home state of Indianapolis, downtown's gonna be very exciting. In a couple of days, we'll be there because it's gonna happen, right? It's almost August 1st. I can't believe it. The end of July is right around the corner. Well, with that, there's been a lot of previews and everything, so we wanted to give you some of the latest hits, what everybody is really excited to play, to demo, or to even buy at GenCon. We're going to give you the list of some of the most popular games out there and our opinions on what we think about them. Today we have some of the big hitters, you could say, of the entire year of GenCon 2024. I'm very excited about these games.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like there's as much volume of just sheer number of games, but there's definitely some pretty new hotness that's out there. It seems pretty amazing.
Absolutely, and a couple of the hottest games out there are going to be from a company that right now is on a winning streak at GenCon these last couple of years. They've been doing some really amazing stuff, such as Three Ring Circus, for example, that we picked up. That was really fun. That came up.
That was last year.
Last GenCon,
2023. Castle. Yeah, the first one really if you look at Board Game Geek, which is kind of if you're not familiar, it's kind of bgg.com. It's the amazing board game website. The number one hotness on there, and I'm ranking this by. They do a great job. They do a GenCon preview. It's every game that's going to be at GenCon. A lot of times there's games in that list that have already released, maybe released the year before, maybe have been on Kickstarter, but no one's got a chance to play them. But if you go in there and sort by hot, which is the amount of thumbs people give, that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea what the best newer games are.
Yeah.
And the one that is on top of my list that I don't want to run but may have to run is Rock Hard 1977. So,
by DeVere.
By DeVere. So this is designed by Jackie Fox, who is actually in the rock band The Runaways from back in the 70s and 80s time frame. And she designed this game. And basically that's what it is. You're trying to take your band to stardom, and you're kind of starting off as a struggling musician in this band, and some of what you can read about it's pretty amazing. So you've got to do a lot of things like you would have had to do back then. You're obviously trying to play gigs and get your band's music out there, but you also have to hang out, do social things, and go to parties and rock. But you got to practice. The band's got to practice, and you got to get better. But you have to work. You have to have a job to pay the bills. So you're trying to balance doing all these things as you're trying to tour around and get your band built up. And it takes place over a year in 1977, and you're trying to drive your band up. There's 9 rounds, and it represents a typical day in 1 month of 1977 from April to December. You've got these 6-8 months basically to take your band to stardom. It's got some cool just cool things in it. There's player boards that you got levels in, different dials like any game, but they're literal like cardboard dials in this. And, you don't just go from 0 to 10. It goes to 11. You can crank it to 11, baby. So that's just pretty awesome. The money in it looks like real money. Kind of the way they did it. It's just really cool. A lot of the theme just drips off of this. I just thought it looked amazing.
Yeah, and I just love the little components in the game, like the little the pick of the guitar it looks like it's a turn, like the order of turn And the color of the pick, obviously, depending on the player that chooses it, is first, second, third. Like, those small little details are really neat. The standees look amazing. Again, the money I thought was brilliant. How they did that. The artwork of it looks really like a comic book from that time. Like, it feels like you're really playing a game, that looks like it's from the 70s, per se.
Yeah.
And obviously, rock hard, obviously, artist music, rock and roll in the 70s is some of the best that can't be compared with any other decade for sure. I know I'm a big fan of music, right? I mean, I'm not like a geek at it like board games, but I love me some good old-timey music, and 70s is right up the alley there. So if you really like the aesthetic, the feel, and maybe even singing along to some Eagles songs, I don't know, whatever rocks your boat, this game is definitely going to be right up there. And I, again, just love the little details that it's just so good. Everybody's talking about this game. If you look anywhere else, even in our episode today, you'll see Rock Hard 1977 in the top of everyone's list for a reason. It looks very fun.
Yeah, it does look amazing. I'd say another game that I'm pretty hyped up to see is a game with just the reason I latched onto it's just really a unique theme. And this is a game by AEG, designed by Josh Wood. It's called Let's Go to Japan. And basically the theme of this game is you're spending a week in Japan, and you're kind of planning out your trip, or you're living your trip. So you're playing cards on where you're going to go, how you're going to travel. There's Tokyo. There's 2 cities you can visit in this that you can go back and forth from. So you've got Tokyo and Kyoto. And, as you're playing your cards and building out this tableau, you're planning the trip. And it's just got some cool mechanics. So if the cards kind of make it that you need to go from Tokyo to Kyoto, you lose some time because you got to take the speed train between the 2 cities.
Yeah.
So you're going to try to economize, getting the most done in one place before you go back to the other. It's kind of cool. Like if you don't want to play any of your cards, you can throw one, discard your one from your hand and draw one at random and play it face down. And you don't know until the end of the game when you run your engine what that card is. So it's kind of like you just went for a walk. And as you went for a walk, you found something cool or you didn't. Yeah. Because you don't know. It's just random.
Yeah.
And again, and the point of that is you're kind of building these 7 days out, and then at the end of the game, you run the engine to see how many points you get. So you're not running the engine throughout the game. So I thought that was just such a cool, unique theme. Going on a trip, card play, building tableaus, common mechanics, but just in a unique theme that I thought looked pretty awesome. The arts on the cards, it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it looks...
so I was just really excited about that.
It does look really just amazing, and I've never been to Japan, but I do know that I've heard and I've seen a lot of pictures and videos, and there's a lot of things to do, it seems like, over there. So trying to catch it all on your trip is something realistically you want to do when you visit any other country or city, correct? So trying to do that in a board game and trying to make it challenging where you're going through all these routes, but you don't want to waste so much time on the little things when you can go see some big stuff. But if you go see the big stuff, you waste more time where you can't see some of the smaller things. So you kind of have to balance in between there, and I just really like that. So if you are a very stressful person about getting plans and making sure you see everything in a city, this game might not be for you. But if you like to see some of the amazing things that there is in Japan, and just, if you're a good planner, this is a game you probably...
I like to plan my vacations. I like to know what I'm doing.
Exactly.
It drives people nuts sometimes, but I like to know what I'm doing. I can free flow, but I like to plan.
We're both planning people, and this game is right up your alley to see if you can plan the best trip to Japan.
Yeah, I'd say another game that I think when people see it, I'm still trying to gather. It's on the Board Game Geek Caucus that it's going to be in the U.S., that it's going to be at GenCon. And if it truly is here, in the form it needs to be, I think it's going to blow up the con, and that's Comic Hunters.
Yes.
Comic Hunters is a game I heard about maybe a year or two ago, and it's basically that. You're going and and trying to collect comic books. And you're doing that against other players. And you do that through a series of 3 rounds, and each round plays different. You're drafting comic books, and you're getting scored on what you do in each round. But like I said, the layout of the cards, the way you draft changes round to round. And like any set collection, you're trying to do set collections. But what makes this game so cool is that the actual cards are actual Marvel comic book covers.
Yes. The
cards themselves are real classic comic book covers. So you're going and you want to draft this card, and it is the, for example, the Infinity Gauntlet comic book cover is the card you're playing and pulling. And it's got, of course, some icons on it, but for the most part, it's that art of that comic book. And it just looks amazing. And and the way we got it is, I actually got it off eBay in Brazil and had it sent, and found some translated instructions for it online from Portuguese to English. We speak Spanish, but we don't speak Portuguese. So, we had the opportunity to play that, and it's just cool. It's just so cool, the aesthetic to doing that, and just walking around with a deck full of cool comic book covers, real comic books, and they go from, all the way back to like the 60s, and then it's different eras of comic books that come out in the different rounds. I think it's a fun game, but you throw these real comic book covers on it, classic comic book covers on it, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I really like the strategy that this game brings as well. Obviously, that every card has its own class and its own symbol, and you're trying to get the most of those symbols, right, like you explained, and that's just really, really neat, and you do that by drafting, right, and there's 8 ways to
drafting, but not like draft out of my deck and pass it. The cards may be laid out on top of on the board, right, on the table, and you can pick one way and it shifts them maybe, and it's cool. The problem is the theme is so good that you're like, I want that one comic. I've had that comic. I want that comic. It doesn't match your set collection, so you got to find yourself not doing what you want to do, just for fun, collecting a certain comic book, but getting the right one for your game. But it's all fun. It's all fun that way. I really like it.
Yeah, it really is very fun. We've played it a couple of times, and every time we've played it, and again, back to the drafting. It just always surprises me that there's these literally 5-6 ways of drafting that I did not know was necessarily called drafting. There's even a little bit of auction in there as well to get these comic books and things, and trying to just have the best set of hands, cards in hand is just, man, it's amazing. We've played it, and I definitely do recommend it. And it'll be, for the first time ever, released to the North American public at GenCon.
And it's by Spin Master, so they've got the license for Marvel games and the ones who do Marvel United. So I'm excited for people to get a hold of that.
And I really do think this game will be one of the biggest ones as well. Like you mentioned, I really do think this game will be a huge hit. I don't know if it'll be as big of as a hit as maybe Rock Hard 1977, but I do think it'll be a top 5 best-selling game at GenCon this year. It really is amazing. And even the limited people that had it from Brazil, people wouldn't stop talking, right, about this game. They would just go on and on about how wonderful this game is. Dice Tower gave it high reviews. We're giving you high reviews right now, and it's just such a fun game, and we hope you can get your hands on it. If you go in Gen Con, and obviously it will be released right after it on the retailing as well. So that'll be something to look forward to. Another game by DeVere, right, is another game by DeVere, not just Rock Hard 1977, but another game called Cities. Now, what is that all about?
Cities looks like an amazing game where you're basically trying to make the best city.
Sorry, yeah, I just kind of threw that one at you, didn't I?
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine.
No, but you're basically right. What you're doing is building the best city, and you can do it. I believe there's different kind of big cities like Buenos Aires, Mexico City, New York, Barcelona. These
you're getting
big
to visit
cities.
these cities and steal things from them. Basically, is what it is. So you're drafting. Maybe it's a certain landmark, or maybe it's a certain type of park. So you're drafting certain pieces of famous cities around the world and building your own city.
That's pretty funny.
Against everybody else. I think that looks pretty amazing too. That looks like a really cool one. It's very abstract for sure. It's not you're not going to have all these components, but they do a really good job of these. Devere does of these games. Three Ring Circus that we got last year wasn't like this giant box. It's not even the size of a Ticket to Ride box. Which is kind of that standard box. It's smaller than that, but there's a lot of game in there. And it looks like the cities is going to be doing the same thing, which is great because it keeps the price down. The price is like $24 retail. Yeah. I mean, it's a tiny game. It looks bigger than
it really does.
But it's a tiny game. You can probably play it in a lot of places, and it's a nice price point. So that's something I want to look into as well.
And again, with the drafting element, I'm sure this game is also fairly simple, or at least simpler to understand and to teach and to learn. So if you want to share the experience of drafting with others, this might be one of the first games you might want to get at GenCon or play with your friends and family as well. So this game, very colorful as well, looks really neat. I definitely can't wait to play it. Another game that interests me was Middle Ages, made by Studio H, the designer Marc Andre. 2 to 5 players, plays in about 30 minutes, even with the max amount of players. So that's really good, obviously, having, that low down, play.
So you said Marc Andre is the designer on that one, correct?
Yes, Marc Andre
has done Splendor.
He's the Splendor man.
That's what he's famous for, Splendor.
You know what? You're absolutely right. It is I should have known that one on my notes. I didn't have that. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, so obviously, Splendor. Amazing reputation he's gotten from that, right? So you expect this game to, well, kind of be, maybe not exactly like that, but the hype is there. So I'm ready to try out Middle Ages. What is it? Basically, Middle Ages is a open drafting set collecting game set in the medieval time period. You are trying to draft... Let me go back to my page there. There we go. You are trying to draft all kinds of types of buildings, basically markets, barracks, forts, villages, palaces, and more, in trying to grow your city more. Every tile is it looks like a piece of a puzzle, and you're connecting it together in your little dashboard. And when you actually get a tile and place it on your city, you get those immediate benefits immediately. Right, there you go. Emphasis on immediately. There's no end game benefits at all, so you have to plan throughout the rounds on what can get you the most points at the end. You can try to harness the power of tactical combinations to amplify your income, getting more money, and pave your way to victory. This game did seem very fun, very colorful. I like that the puzzle, it's definitely more of a puzzle builder, and again, just trying to get the most symbols. The dashboard here, where you actually play different colors, and these colors have different symbols, and on these symbols, they have different ways to score. If you have the most of this symbol, you get that many points, and so on and so forth. If you have the most of this other symbol, you get this much bonus points, and, on and on and on. It's very interesting. It looks really fun and colorful. And again, fairly easy, actually. I've read a couple of articles on some of the rules and things like that. Fairly easy game. And again, 30 minutes. That's something really good. Obviously, the games that tend to be shorter to play are the ones that you play the most at times, right?
Yeah.
It's a good filler game.
You got to go through them several times and kind of tweak your strategy and get better. They're really nice that way.
Yeah, and actually it was...
I thought it looked pretty interesting.
It did, and there was actually one person as well that made a little forum here that he got the chance to play it, and he said that the replayability is actually pretty good. Sure, you play through all of the tiles, but you don't know the order of which those tiles will come, so you have to tweak your strategies all the time, constantly. And it just seems like a game that you just really, really want. So I can't wait for that. And that's Middle Ages for you. And we'll go and continue with our next game.
Yeah, another game that I'm not going to spend too much time talking about, but it looks pretty cool. To me, it's a game, it's kind of a, I guess, add-on to a previous game. It's a standalone game, but the game was Maracaibo. It was a famous game by Alexander Pfister, who's won Spiel des Jahres, Board Gaming Awards for Games of the Year. This one's called Pirates of Maracaibo. Again, by Alexander Pfister. He's got a couple co-designers, Ryan Hendrickson and Ralph Bonnart, Bonner, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. But in Maracaibo, you were kind of doing like a rondel thing where you're kind of going around this Caribbean island, exploring, looking up things, being a merchant. And this one, you're being a pirate. So you're not just also going around the Caribbean and exploring and opening up tiles, but you're also kind of you have two markers. You have a ship that you kind of go on this tableau, and you're starting off to the left, and it's a set of cards, and some are flipped over, which are islands, and other ones you're exploring as you're sending your ship around. You got 3 rounds. You're going through and doing this. There's also a common board, which looks like you're kind of going through the jungle on an island, crossing rivers, going around this giant lake. And finding and discovering things. So between the two of those, it sounds like you can battle your opponents, you can strike fear, have fame. You're also doing this exploration. It just looked really, really cool. And Maracaibo, which I didn't get a chance to play, kind of seems like a place to jump in to me. So I was really excited about that. I'm going to try and hit the booth and see if we can't pick that one up as well.
That's very nice. And it's one of the games that I've always wanted, but I do think that this version of the game, right, the Pirates version, standalone version, I do want to play that, I think, even more than the original one. That does seem very, very interesting. Another board game out there is by a very popular franchise in the board gaming community, the Undaunted series. Usually play where two players, usually, or 4, can play on different sides, 2 countries or factions or whatever, from past wars, like literal historic wars in the past, but now they're changing things up. You see, this year at GenCon, they will be releasing Undaunted 2200 Callisto. Callisto? Is that right? Callisto?
Callisto.
Callisto? All right, well, I was close. I'll take that. Callisto. So this is a futuristic version of Undaunted following the similar Undaunted gameplay, which is really, really neat that a lot of people like. It's a war game, so you're playing cards, running around the map, trying to get higher ground. But in this version, you're actually trying to get the, how do you say? The technology, advanced technology, such as your mechs and your flying ships and your high-tech guns and weapons and everything, and trying to get the high ground, playing the cards just right, and trying to win the battle of the future. This game looks really, really fun. It's funny, because Undaunted is a very popular series, and we actually have Undaunted
Stalingrad, which is the campaign version of it. So basically in this game, it's kind of like it's a dudes on a map territory control game, but it's all done with tiles. And so, the original games were certain theaters in World War II. The Stalingrad one was really cool because it was a campaign. So it's the campaign of the Nazis and German forces trying to take over the city of Stalingrad. It's a famous battle, siege, really, where the Russians held out for a long time. And that's how that game plays. You're moving your tiles around different scenarios, but when you lose forces, it matters not just if you won, but how you won, because that attrition of what you lose battle to battle carries over in the next battle. So This just looks to take that to the next step. David S. Thompson, a great designer, love a lot of his games. He's also behind the War Chest series, if you played those. Mm-hmm. He's on this Undaunted futuristic version. I just think it looks pretty cool.
It really does, and again, we haven't really had the chance to play some of the Undaunted series, which is a shame because it's some of the biggest franchises or series of games out there in the hobby. But this is something I definitely want to demo it, and if we're interested, probably get. You're also rolling dice in this game, and there's a lot of dice. Looking at some of the diagrams and pictures, a lot of amazing technology and advanced, vehicles and weapons and characters and everything. It just looks really, really beautiful, really nice. And the map, obviously, being different types of boards to play on, different scenarios, I assume. It's going to be very fun. Also, the game comes in a 2-player mode, which is typically the version a lot of people play with, but it also does come with the 4-player and a solo mode as well for anyone that is interested. This game really, really seems really fun. I love sci-fi. I like, I just like sci-fi. I like it. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, as I've said before. You're a huge Star Wars fan. We love sci-fi, and I know a lot of you do too. So mixing that theme as if it was a historic battle is going to be very interesting in how they do it, because how they did it in the past with other historic battles is really amazing. I've heard great things about it. It's authentic, it's realistic, and they try to do the best they can with sticking to the story. So how will they do that with the future? Well, we'll just have to wait.
Yeah, and I think that'll be pretty interesting. At the very least, it makes me want to play the one we've got here.
Yeah, it really does.
Get it on the table and set up. So, looking forward to that. I thought maybe I would mention a couple of expansions to existing games that's going to be for sale at GenCon coming up. Some of these are games that came out maybe last GenCon. Others are games that came out a while back that, I'll be honest, I'm kind of excited about one of them. Some of the expansions as well. So just I'm going to run through them really quick. We have World Wonders Mundo expansion. World Wonders was a pretty hot game at Gen Con last year.
Very fun.
It's very fun, where you're kind of building your city, but you're putting wonders in it, and these wonders are these nice chunky wooden wonders, basically. So, the pyramids are these chunky wooden pyramids, and you got to fit them in, and it's definitely like a puzzle piece, Tetris-style type game where you're fitting different shapes of World Wonders and completing different things there. So we actually picked that up. It's out for sale now, but it's, being highlighted at Gen Con. Another one is Barcelona, which was another game that was set up, or that was sold at Gen Con, released last year at Gen Con. Barcelona, Passage of Gracia, and that is an expansion to Barcelona. So in Barcelona, you're setting up the city of Barcelona, which historically is kind of a famous way that they did that, and how they kind of built a new section of Barcelona and designed it, how it would flow. You're building that city in this one. It's giving you just more tiles and ways to expand upon that. We have another space-based expansion by John DeClaire, another fun game. If you like Machikoro, this is like a little more advanced sci-fi version of Machikoro, what the base space is. You're building a tableau of modules for your base, and you roll dice, and you get things when those numbers come up. It's a fantastic game. I think we only played it a couple times. We probably need to bring it back out because it's actually a lot better game.
It's actually very fun.
There's another one called, and this one, is called Space-Based Genesis. That's coming out for Space-Based. So again, looks really cool. You're terraforming foundries. You're adding some of that stuff in to this particular version. Another one is Aquatica, Coral Reefs. Yeah. Aquatica was a very cool game.
Very fun.
Came with an expansion right away, and then we haven't heard anything from it in a while. But now they're coming out with another set by Arcane Wonders. In this one, you might have a card. It's in a plastic sleeve, and then as you buy cards and expand upon it, you actually slide the cards in. Yeah. If I remember correctly, into those sleeves, and it makes the card better, sliding on front. So that's just another expansion.
Aquatica is very, very fun, and again, it's engine building, right? So you figure, well, how can I make an expansion for this kind of game? Well, it's of course adding new cards. So in this expansion, you're going to get brand new creatures, characters. You're also going to get this manta ray encounters that flip the rules upside down. So it's going to be very interesting how they're going to do this. Definitely can't wait for that expansion.
Yeah, there's another expansions coming out. I'm just going to kind of hit quickly on these. If you played Planet Unknown, which is another one of these Tetris-style placing odd shapes on a grid, trying to fill up your planet, the Planet Unknown Supermoon expansion is going to be for sale at GenCon. There's an expansion to Distilled. Distilled is a game I just love the theme of. You're basically making spirits, and by spirits I don't mean ghosts, I mean, alcoholic drinks. So at the start of the game, you have a list. You're either trying to make gin or whiskey or tequila, just depending. And in this one, it gives just some more. You're bottling it, these cool bottles that you can buy, and it's really cool game.
The game itself is really, really fun. I do really enjoy it. We've played it a couple of times, and I definitely had a blast with it. It felt a little quirky, a little bit, pun intended there, but it did feel a little weird, but after playing it again, I kind of understood the rules a little bit, how it is, the flowing of it made a little bit more sense, and I assume this expansion will add some more things to smooth it out. Again, I don't know if that was a pun intended, but it was, kind of.
Yeah, and this is the second expansion for it. The other expansion just came out a few months back that actually added more bottles. It added a few more types of liquor that you can make. In each game, it's a set. You know the 6 or 7 you're allowed to make. In this particular one, they're adding a little bit more variety to the game, which I think is cool. More premium ingredients, so it's just really cool. This game is just real thematic, and this expansion is called Cask Strength. It's a mini expansion. It's just going to have some more upgrades for your distillery, different ingredients, and a new way to do the market. It's called the dynamic market mechanic. So it looks like for a small expansion, probably going to be pretty cheap, $10-15. Looks pretty cool. And then there's going to be another War Chest expansion called Nightfall. And it looks like this is going to be adding some interesting mechanics to War Chest. War Chest is a game where basically you have a bag full of poker chips. And the poker chips are types of units that can go on the battle. You can pull a chip out of a bag. You can either play it, or you can use it to play another one that's ready to go. So it's kind of this push-pull mechanic. In this one, they're adding things like fake letters, poison water supplies, these kind of different mechanics to slow down your enemy and kind of build this distrust. Again, by David Thompson, Trevor Benjamin. Just looks like a fantastic game that I'm looking forward to. But if you don't mind, I got one more game I want to talk about. It's just one more. I know we're getting up on length here on time. It's a small game. It'll be pretty quick to talk through. But it's called Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard.
That's fantastic.
And we have a card game. It's in this series. It's called Jekyll and Hyde. And in that game, what it is, it's just a trick-taking game. It's a small game, deck of cards, one small board. And it's a trick-taking game. And what I mean by that, if you're not familiar with the concept of trick-taking, you ever play like hearts or spades, or if you're from Indiana, you play euchre. It's a game where someone plays a card. That lead card, that first card you play, the suit, everybody's got to try and play that suit if they can. If they can't, you can trump it. You play the cards out, and whoever wins a trick, right? You can sometimes, you play different cards in different order and do that. In this game, it's one versus another. Somebody's kind of playing the Dr. Jekyll part of the personality, and somebody's playing the Dr. Hyde part of the personality. And you have this board of numbers of, going from 0, which is where he's Dr. Jekyll, to like 13, and that's where he's Mr. Hyde. But the cool mechanic is this is at the end you count up the number of tricks, and the difference in the number of tricks between player A and player B is how many spaces that thing moves. So if you're the Hyde player, you're not necessarily trying to win all of them. Mr. Hyde, the monster, you're trying to either win or lose all of them. You're trying to get so that, there might be, I can't remember if it's like 10 tricks. You want the Hyde player, you want the difference between the Jekyll player and the Hyde player to be like 8-1. So that's a 7 trick difference. And you're going to move that token at the end of the map. If you're the Dr. Jekyll player, you're trying to make it even. You want it to come out like 8-8. so that token doesn't move at all. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're trying to hurry up and win. Sometimes you're trying to lose. You're trying to make it so you can win and lose. In this one, the two players, it's another 2-player trick-taking game. They're playing together. So Scotland Yard's trying to capture Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, but you're playing together to keep the from losing. So
yeah,
you're trying to work together on how those tricks are won and lost and everything. I love the first game so much. I'm just dying to try this one in a co-op mode.
Yeah, it's very, very fun. And again, the first version was Jekyll versus Hyde, and the new version, or the sequel to the game, Jekyll and Hyde versus Scotland Yard. Definitely can't wait for it, because Jekyll versus Hyde, just going back to the first... the first one in that series, I guess you could say, is a game that has been replayed a lot. We've played that game quite a bit, and you only need a small little space. We even played it in the airport as well.
Yeah, we played it at doctor's offices waiting for things. So it's a cool, small game.
It's very fun, and I like and it's very intense. That's what I like about it too, and trying to play it in a way where, that trick, it's the main trick. It's the one that wins, the trump, right?
Yeah.
And, how that switches in and out, how you can use that as your advantage, or how the other player uses it and you're just destroyed because it's not the trick color that you want. So it's just really neat how it's played, and I can't wait to play it, in a cooperative mode, right? Not neck to neck at each other, right? Because these games are always like that. Finally, we can rest in peace and finally play together this trick-taking game. That's going to be very interesting how they're going to do it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we talked
quite a bit.
We talked a lot.
We still got to mention a couple things that we didn't talk through. So you go on that hotness list of VGG.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Arcs, which is probably the hottest board game out there right now. We didn't talk about it because it's not really releasing at GenCon. It was a Kickstarter. We were able to get a copy. You were able to get a copy there for a while. They've sold out, but the second printing's coming. It's an amazing territory control game that uses trick-taking mechanics, kind of, to set up play order. Very cool. We didn't talk about Galactic Cruise. That actually came out last year. The second round Kickstarter has been on there. You've already talked about a couple of the games in a previous episode, so hit on that. A Mandalorian game that looks fantastic.
Yep.
So... yeah, just
there's
really excited about Gen Con.
Very excited.
You want to talk about our plans for Gen Con, what we're going to try to do while we're there as far as episodes and content?
Yeah, at Gen Con, obviously, just so everyone's aware, we will be busy playing some of these games, but we will try to record at least an episode at the end of the day, of the 4 days at Gen Con, just talking about the games we've played, maybe some of the designers we've met. I'm definitely going to try to ask them some questions just to see how they, got that design or something like that, like I did last year with the designer of Ticket to Ride, obviously, so that was really fun. And we're just going to try to release at least one episode every day for the 4 days. And we're going to give you up and personal opinions about the game. Rock Hard 1977 is definitely a game we will try to get the first day. I heard there is limited amounts of that game. I believe 50 copies per day, something like that.
I think that was Maracaibo. I don't know if I've heard
Maracaibo?
numbers on Devere exactly
Oh,
yet,
well,
I'm going to interview you real quick. One real quick bonus topic right off the top here.
Do it.
What are you looking forward to at Gen Con that's not a board game related thing?
It's not a board game.
Yeah, so not playing a board game, not demoing a board game, not buying one. What is something you love to do to go to Gen Con, go to Indianapolis?
Well, let's see. At Gen Con, it's one of the popular things people do, although has nothing to do with board games in general.
That's what I'm talking about.
Is the food truck area. There's a huge, what is it, like a
it's just
place,
food
like
truck
a huge
alley. Yeah, it's called the Block Party.
There you go, the Block Party. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's a huge little, road full of, trucks and food and drinks and everything. And I think that's very fun. Obviously, when you're playing board games, you kind of have that snack feeling, like, I'm having right now, actually. You know, you just want to have something in your stomach, just have something to chew on while you're playing some amazing games and stuff. So definitely hitting up on those trucks. I know there's some very popular trucks there that a lot of people love and you know, love to eat and things like that. Special drinks that are releasing only at some of the food trucks there. So I just can't wait for that. That seems very fun to me, and of course, PF Chains as well is like right down the street.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part. We go, you board game it, and then you walk to these trucks. You can walk to PF Chains. The convention is in downtown Indy, and Circle Center Mall is one of Indianapolis' biggest malls. It's right there downtown, all connected. That's kind of our tradition. The first day is just go board game it up, buy a bunch of games, get tired, walk over, and eat some PF Chains and talk about the stuff. There's Giordano's Pizza, Chicago-style super thick pizza right there. I love that. There. And I am looking, you can't, but I'm looking forward to the Cinnamon Roll for Initiative brew that the Sun King Brewery of Indianapolis, the official beer of GenCon, will be coming out as well. So hit that up if you're in town. But that's what's cool about it, too, is you just kind of go, you chill, you game. Got to get out of that hall a little bit. It's crazy. Yeah. There's, 60, 70,000 people come to Gen Con. So looking forward to going to it with you, man. It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be very fun, and I definitely can't wait to go our third year in a row, right? So that's going to be very fun. And I just a quick little note there, too. I just love how everybody knows what Gen Con is in downtown Indianapolis during those days, and it's just really cool to see all of these board game, little hints and, titles and the foods or whatever. And that's really cool to me, because usually it's kind of hard sometimes finding people that know the kind of games you play, especially hobby games. So having all these food trucks show up with the Roll for Initiative, like you said, or I assume there's some sort of dessert or burger or something they sell with the name of a board game or something, or a meeple burger sandwich thing.
Mechanic, yeah.
So, something cool, and that's just really neat to go there, and to say, hey, you know all these things, and I'm witnessing it with you and everything, and that's just really neat. So I definitely can't wait for that. And, what about you? What's your favorite, kind of thing?
I'm about the food, too. Like I mentioned, the food's pretty good. I like going with you guys. Of course, we take the whole fam. That first day is just crazy. Last year we had all the chaos that was Lorcana that almost started a riot. But it's just fun to go and just see stuff you're not even looking for sometimes, and demoing games, and this is all game related, but the food, I love kind of the mini tradition we already have, where you spend the first day, walk over to the PF Chains, get in the air conditioning, and just kind of
I love that
unwind. Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, sitting at a PF Chains on a Thursday in the middle of Indianapolis, eating some food, playing some kind of small game.
You have to play.
And
right?
You got to play while you're there. I like the night times afterwards. I mean, kind of the whole fam's there. We're all playing games and planning to play the new swag that we got. You run into people. You run into people whose podcasts that we listen to and love.
Yeah.
We run into designers, whether it's Alan R. Moon, like you said, a Ticket to Ride fame, or if it's Eric M. Lang, one of our favorite designers.
Eric M. Lang, that was insane.
That was awesome, and they're just, and everybody's just so nice. Eric Lang stops. It's on the way to a meeting. He stops. He's like, "Let me take this selfie for us. My selfie game is strong. Let me do
exactly.
that for you." Grabs my phone, takes the selfies.
Surprisingly tall man.
Yes,
I was surprised.
It's just a
Great
really
guy.
cool place to go. It's safe. If you have any questions about it, feel free to put those in the comments, like Ethan mentions. Yeah. And you know what? We're deciding here how much to put into this podcast. Ethan's got some really great ideas about what to do. He wants to kind of use it as a tool to learn more about editing, maybe potentially looking at some videos as well. So if you got things you'd like to hear from us, we're kicking around the idea of doing a Spanish language version as well. Since we both speak Spanish, and that's kind of an underserved board game podcast spot. And, do we have a separate kind of channel there for that? So I think you got a lot of things in the works, just kind of exciting.
Yeah, and, just a bunch of different, segments to talk about. Obviously, getting back into the routine of recording and things, just trying to think of new ideas and stuff. And, I think what makes every podcast or show different, even if they're talking about the same thing, is the opinions and the style of which it is given. So obviously trying to figure out what style we want, the style we want to choose and everything, that's going to be very, very interesting to figure out, to find out, and then release it to everybody. But we definitely can't wait. One of the bigger things that we are planning, like you mentioned, is the Spanish version. Obviously, just reaching a new audience that hasn't really been tapped quite just yet. And everybody loves board games. Everybody does, but everybody also doesn't know all of these hobby board games that take so much more less time, but yet is so much more fun. And just expanding the range with all of you who are listening now, but also to those who speak other languages and everything. That's just something we really want to do. And of course, the videos and stuff like that, actually playing some playthroughs, showing reviews, pictures, and things of board games, and, well, showing ourselves, I guess you could say, right? And just doing all this kind of things, and that seems really fun. So we definitely want to expand there. And one way of doing that, or that can help us as well, is if you subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen it to. It could be from Spotify, it could be Apple Podcast, and or other places. And yeah, please do that. It really means a lot. Definitely give us those likes, give us those views, because that just tells us, if what we're doing, what we're releasing is something people want, if that's something people want to hear. And we thank you for taking your time to hear those. We really do appreciate it. And, well, GenCon is right around the corner. Literally right around the corner. So excited, right? I mean, this
super excited.
Super exciting stuff. And we just can't wait for those days to come and meet the designers and all these companies with their brand new ideas and everything. Is just really, really cool. Although we did mention a lot of expansions and board games, I do want to make it clear that we're still not done yet. We still have so much more to talk about with the GenCon games that we'll be releasing there. If we didn't mention a couple beforehand, we do apologize. But we will definitely try to talk about those throughout the days if we possibly can. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We hope you have a fantastic day, evening, and or night, depending when you're listening to this. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.
Adios.
Take care.